What's up, guys? Rack City MTG coming back at you with some modern rack content. So, something interesting today. This is a league that I started months and months ago. I actually won the first game, but I'll show you in a moment when it pops up. It I won the game. Now it's saying on the league match that I lost the game, but then it's registering as a draw saying I'm 0-0. So I'm not entirely sure um, what's going on with there. I have three different contrasting things, but we're not going to drop the league when it says 0-0. We're just going to roll with it. I do have an interesting deck. The deck I had already submitted, I don't think that it's going to be the most optimal build for the rack going forward or anything like that. At the time, we'll go ahead and flip to our collection here. We have Rack Obosh. At the time, Murktide had dipped slightly, but as of making this video, at least according to Goldfish, it represents 18% of the meta recently. So definitely the smallpoxless version. We would definitely want to go back to smallpox because there's only a rather limited number of ways to kill a Murktide Regent, and you probably want 8 edicts to be able to do that. But as of now, we're trying this list. It's a little bit more low to the ground. Some of the more interesting main deck options that you'll see here are Plague Engineer. I think this is a really underplayed card, and it gives us a little bit of value to 2 for 1. It's particularly good against decks like Hammer and Ragavan type decks. Really, the I keep wanting to call them Delver. Sorry, the Murktide decks in general. It's good against DRCs before they flip and Ragavans to just get that quick little 2 for 1, and it has Death Touch. So an interesting card to be thinking about. Also, at the time, built one because there was really no living in the meta. Now I think it's back up to 1 or 2% of the meta. Like it's grown a little bit. We decided to go full in on not worrying about like if Obosh gets sideboarded in, or if Leyline of the Voids gets sideboarded in, we don't lose our Obosh. This is kind of the big payoff for not running Smallpox, in my opinion. Um, Having a creature for free in what I keep wanting to say command zone, but that's basically what it is. Even though it costs 8 mana over two turns, it is an extremely fast clock on its own. And for what it's worth, it synergizes really well, specifically with the rack. If you do still play any number of Shrieking Afflictions, it does not work with Shrieking Affliction because it's loss of life. But the rack's a little bit older, and it still says deals damage. And Obosh does double the rack, which is pretty neat if you ask me. And because we have the Obosh, we our plague engineers do get doubled from that, but also one of our kill spells functioning as a murderous rider. I'll be just a little bit more aggressive with this build than other builds. We have all 6 removal spells, really 8 total slots dedicated to that. Um, like I said, once you take out smallpox, you can play around a little bit more with which other removal spells. Like there's a lot of different options. One that specifically helps get around to the odd versus even thing, gives you like options to play on turn 2 or through a chalice, is a card that I was really like actually surprised of how impressed I was with it in testing, and that's March of Wretched Sorrow. So at an additional cost to cast this spell, you may exile any number of black cards from your hand, same way as March of Otherworldly Light and all the other marches. That's really the only one that sees any play. But it deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, which is fairly important, and you gain X life. So this is a way to dump some of our dead hand disrupted spells like Thoughtseizes and Inquisitions when we're both in top deck mode that we don't really have a use for anymore into these massive life point swings. Like I was originally running just these 2 in the sideboard. I moved these 2 to the main deck. I may eventually one day go up to 4. I've been surprised by how well they play in a deck that you have a lot of hand disruption spells in. That being said, I think there's really no surprises here. The Nihil Spellbomb main deck, Expedition Map, Pithing Needle. A lot of times I was running 2 Nihil Spellbombs. I would actually probably go back to that build, if not more, because of the popularity of Murktide now. But we are running 4 of the relics in the sideboard, and what we do is, because Raven's Crime is bad against living in anyway, we just sideboard out all 4 Ravenscribes, sideboard in all 4 relics. If another deck uses their graveyard a little bit, we might get creative, like such like Murktide, about which ones we keep. But that's why the 4 relics are there, is the straight replacement of Leyline of the Void with Obosh. And 2 more Plague Engineers, just pretty simple stuff. Murderous Riders, mostly for more control-y or grindy matchups like Omnath, or if the odd blue-white control player or anything like that pops up. Doubles as a threat and Planeswalker removal to side in and out for the fatal pushes. But besides that, I kind of like the way that it's currently constructed. If I'm a little bit rusty, the only Magic I've been playing a lot of Arena. And here's, you'll see what I'm talking about here, where it says match 1, the unknown opponent, which was, I'm not sure. We actually won 2-0 this game, but now it's saying 1-0 and 2, and showing up as a draw for both games. And but then on top of that, because this is, even though it says we lost 0, it's showing up as a loss. So I'm very confused about how that's actually going to translate to the league here. Hopefully, we don't start off the league 0 and 1 or something like that. That's the worst case scenario. But anyway, back to, you can always skip through this part later on, to get to the actual matches we're waiting in the queue. But I've been mostly playing Arena with the Magic I've played. Historic's a really fun format right now for some of you Magic boomers. If you like the way that Magic was going on, maybe like 5-6 years ago in Modern, we're going to reveal our Obosh. I mean, this is just a keepable hand with this deck. We will definitely be leading on the Inquisition into Thoughtseize into starting the Ravens crime train. You can tell it's been a minute since I've played. I do like to extend this out just a little bit. And I definitely like extending my graveyard out. So we're going to keep this hand. Our opponent mulligans. That's probably a good sign. Interesting enough here, it is kind of being weird about extending the graveyard up. So I guess maybe there's been a few updates, so it's hard to tell what reasoning there is here. I'm going to go ahead and mute the sound here. I know that can be a little bit annoying hearing moto sounds in the background. Okay, appears to be probably Merfolk, but we'll see. They're not necessarily the only Mutavault deck. It's definitely some sort of tribal deck if you see Mutavault and Aethervial, but could be mono white humans, for example. That's kind of been around a little bit. We'll go ahead and Inquisition. If we can stop them from getting a turn 2 play here at all with this Inquisition. Okay, we won't be able to stop them from getting any turn 2 play. Oh yeah, we will, because they did play the Mutavault. So we can get rid of the dock hand, and next turn we can Thoughtseize away the Merfolk Trickster. The Mutavaults are good against us right now because they are threats that we can't Thoughtseize away, but we have, I think, well over, it's definitely okay, they're getting in there with Mutavault. We do have an abundance of instant speed removal spells for this specific reason, so I do miss playing Mutavault. It was one of my favorites we played. Urza Saga is great. That gives us some late game here. Okay, we just take the Merfolk Trickster and don't really care about their Dismember right now. I would actually rather get rid of the Mutavault than the Dismember, so we'll see how that goes. They did get rid of the Dismember. They probably do have us on rack after seeing that Raven's Crime and the Urborg. The reason why I'm doing it that way is in case I draw a third land that I can just Raven's Crime multiple times if I want to. Okay, so Tide Shaper. Oh, that's great that they're playing that now, because they can't get my Urza Saga with that. That's perfectly fine. Especially because now the Raven's Crime is kind of useless. Oh, even better. Oh, the Plague Engineer looking like a stud out the gate. Plague Engineer on Merfolk. All right. The top deck Plague Engineer does feel great. Interesting enough, the resurgence of Merfolk is one of the big reasons why I started running Plague Engineers. about the time where merfolk and elves and goblins, all three, got very playable lords. It's when I started running this card just a little bit more often. Okay, let's stick to this game plan. Okay, I can just use the Raven's Crime in my hand to force any action here. If they do have something instant speed. Appears to, okay, so it is an Aether Vial. We'll probably get Pithing Needle on the Mutavault, actually. Oh, wow. So our opponent seems to have misplayed here. But yeah, we'll get Pithing Needle on Mutavault, I think. And that deals with all of their threats, and we'll have a couple of constructs in play. Because obviously, when I say deal with all of our threats, we'll be using the Liliana to sacrifice the one creature they do have in play. I do hate that that's how it worked out, that our opponent did misplay, but I don't think it's going to particularly matter this game. I think we've handled them pretty well. Okay, instep. We will have to take a damage because our Urborg is an island now. Our opponent has gotten a bit unlucky here, but we're okay with taking advantage of that. Yeah, I think we just Pithing Needle the Mutavault in this case. You could say Expedition Map. That might be a little bit better. Hmm. I think we play it safe because if they top deck uh, a Lord here, we could be in trouble if we don't deal with these Mutavaults now. If they top deck an Island Walk Lord. Okay, so we do have the Mutavault taken care of. We'll probably crack this Nurturing Peatland at their instep. Main deck Pithing Needle and Saga decks is definitely the most underrated thing. All right, opponent just concedes. Yeah, they're pretty far behind. I don't think they're going to ever catch up here. I appreciate our opponent saving both of our times. For obviously for the tribal deck, two more Plague Engineers coming in. I apologize. I've been a little bit ill all week. We went out on a vacation this past week, and I think I might have picked up a little something on the other end of the country here. Let's see. Funeral Charm is exceptionally bad against them, so that one's an easy takeout. Murderous Rider is not particularly good either. We do know Thoughtseize is weaker against is the weakest discard spell in our deck against them, just simply because all of their cards are going to be over 3 CMC. More than likely, they could be running some jank sideboard stuff we don't know about. We can also take out the Nihil Spellbomb. We'll leave in these two. I think we're going to try to keep two of these. Play two Bontus. We may be putting a Hex Parasite. I don't think we want Hex Parasite just to deal with a vial. We have Pithing Needle to do that if we want to. You could say maybe get a second Pithing Needle. But I do think it comes down to, do we want the two Thoughtseizes or the two Marches? And I think the correct answer is the Thoughtseizes still. We'll look at our split here because of the Reckonings and 4 Plague Engineer. I think we're fine on removal, and that just gives us more opportunities to get a vial or 2 drops, things like that, and just do what we did this game, where they don't really have an opportunity to play much Magic because of how the game goes. All right, I do think we mulligan this hand. I think we're down to 22 lands. We might be playing 24 still, but we are going to mulligan. I hate this hand too. This hand is probably better than most 5-card hands, so we are going to keep it. Takenuma almost equals a spell. It's like one. I would even say it's half of a spell. I'd say it's like 1/3 of a spell. Hopefully we draw a discard spell turn 1 here. Oh, well, that's actually pretty great. We'll just play this, play a rack. Now the jig is completely up. I wouldn't mind. I was gonna say I wouldn't mind to see a Force of Negation on the rack now. Luckily, one of the reasons why originally I think I was playing quite a few less lands when playing Obosh here because we aren't running Smallpox. But honestly, because of this Obosh, there's always something to do with our mana for most of the game. So we still kind of, at least I still kind of like running a higher number of lands. I'm not sure what I ended up settling on. Chalice on one, I think that's okay. We did get our rack into play. We do have our board wipes. A lot of our interaction is more than one mana. It is a little bit annoying that we're not going to be able to use the Fatal Push, but next turn, if they don't commit anything to the board, we'll just be putting Obosh into our hand. It is worth noting that now we do want the Hex Parasite because we know that Chalice of the Void, so hopefully I'll remember that when we go into sideboarding. So an Otawara. Okay, still nothing from our opponent. Guessing it's some sort of counter magic. Oh well, let's slam the Liliana. If it is counter magic, like Force Negation, anything like that, I'd rather see it now. We have a good target to tick up with our Fatal Push. Great. So we'll essentially be getting a 2-for-1 out of this Liliana to get this 1-drop out of our hand. If they do flash in a Trickster and double Lord next turn, we'll go ahead and just Bontu's Last Reckoning. And of course, if they have the Force of Negation, they have it. But I think if they did, they would have probably countered the Liliana there, unless they're very confident that they can kill it next turn. Also, they do have a Chalice in hand. I'm sure they don't want a Chalice on 2. Notably, the Chalice on 1 doesn't affect the... Okay, here's the Trickster, probably. Okay, doesn't surprise me there. If they do double Lord right here, or double sorcery speed spell, I would much rather that than be holding up 2 mana in some way. So I don't know. They might run regular counterspell. They could run a lot of things. So there's Lord number 1, okay? A second Lord would be great because then I know that they can't be holding up Force of Negation, even though it would kill the Liliana. Okay? Okay, so no play from our opponent. We definitely will just uptick here. I think we're pitching the Takenuma at this point. Because whatever land we're playing is the land for turn. And Urborg is a bit better than Takenuma as the land. Yeah, there's no reason to keep them off black mana, I don't think. They might just be holding up counterspell here. We'll see. It wouldn't be the end of the world if they did have a counterspell as their last card in hand. Notably, if they do... Okay, so they did not have a counterspell. It's probably a second Trickster. It is a second Trickster, okay. I do feel pretty confident about our position here. They will kill the Liliana, which is unfortunate. But we do have the Rack in play, and then we do have the Plague Engineer to start whittling down the effectiveness of their creatures. Okay, this is the one card that we really struggle beating in their deck. This card is, for lack of any other better word, absolutely insane. Um, it's the likelihood of us winning with this getting more than one attack step in, like it just goes to basically 0. Um, so they couldn't have asked for a better top deck in this situation. And I'm not saying that this current game is we're next to 0, but if we don't get this Plague Engineer in play very quickly, we will almost definitely die, especially once it gets indestructible. If they can play a second Merfolk here, we'll be in trouble. Okay, no spell from our opponent is a good sign. We are going to crack the Peatland. Our land's untapped this turn. Okay, Raven's Crime is something I like here. Yeah, we are going to just Raven's Crime now. Oh, that was very silly on my part for the Chalice there. Like I said, it's been a while since I've played any modern at all, but it is worth noting. I can't play the Expedition map too. I'd rather have the Raven's Crime there. So we're definitely going to name Merfolk. But yeah, that was that's a bad play on my end, but it definitely it won't make any impact in the game, thankfully. We will be in a tricky situation if they attack with just the Svelin. Because let's see, it's indestructible if you control at least two or more Merfolk. So their play tells us they either have a second, like a Trickster or something in hand, a Rodalian Hexcatcher, or they have a second Svelin. But either way, like we have to make the trade. We can't. We might have already lost to this card. It just generates so much card advantage. So we'll see. Obosh here with a rack could get us there. Notably, Chalice of the Void on one is significantly better against our build than it is um, our my more typical builds with the deck. And actually, in most Obosh brews, I'll run the Hex Parasite main deck. Uh, Drawing the Expedition map is kind of worst case scenario because one of the ways that we can kind of power out of a Chalice is going Urza Saga into Expedition map into a second Urza Saga. Okay, can't play that. Just go ahead and put Obosh in our hand. Say go. Opponent is very interesting what they have going on in hand right now. I mean, 5 cards in hand is quite a lot to not be playing anything at all. Okay, we'll take 2. They might just be actively making sure they don't die to the rack, which I think they could definitely. We're on such a slow clock. I think they could afford to be a little bit more aggressive. All right, so our hand is officially locked out of the game. Any land will bring us back live, though. Because it'll be very hard for them to attack through an Obosh anytime soon. So land from the opponent. Maybe they have a lot of lands in hand and they're holding back. That's what I'm going to hope is that it's either vials and lands. We won't know this game. Okay, there's a Lord. Probably. Could be something else, I guess. Nope, it's the Lord. Okay, we don't have any islands or anything yet, so that's been positive. If we top deck, okay, so I was gonna say if we top deck the second Urborg, we would be in a interesting spot because then you have to decide if you'd rather play the Obosh this turn, which the answer is we would have had to regardless. Okay, if we have a counter spell, we could probably safely concede. Or a subtlety even. Yeah. We'll scoop to that because it's 3/5/7. Yeah. I think they can deal 10 next turn anyway. Unfortunate. We just got by the Chalice of the Void. We will bring the Hex Parasite in. We'll actually probably bring the Marches and some of the Murderous Riders in just to be better against Chalice of the Void. Yeah, okay, I still am playing 24 lands. I was going to say that was something that I remember deciding on previously that it would be better to just go ahead and play the high land count because of Obosh. Let's get rid of so we do know about subtlety. That was the one card that Thoughtseize hits that the rest can't. But I still think Thoughtseize is overall the worst card against them. And we'll go down one Raven's Crime. We'll go down 2 Raven's Crimes. So we have a lot of good removal in the matchup. I do think we want to take the die roll here to maximize our chance of getting around a Aether Vial and Just a few cards that they could have. Aether Vial, Chalice. Them mulliganing is big. That basically negates the fact that we chose to take the play. But granted, this has been our first choice with the Obosh build and with the mono black mid range deck I've been playing. I have been taking the play a lot more often. Modern's just getting to the point where it's so fast and so much so about board presence and less about card advantage that if you don't make those meaningful plays your first turn, it might cost you the game if the opponent can get it and start getting in Ragavan hits or anything like that. Out of what's here, I think we take the Tide Shaper with the hopes that they don't draw a counterspell for the spell in next turn. I do think that's where we want to be. We definitely we can't let this card stay on the battlefield. Last game we went from a winning position to definitely losing just by this card being in play 2 turns. So it's something to watch out for. Okay, do they have an instant speed trick here? Okay, it appears not to. We are going to wait on the Saga 1 turn. Yeah, it's tricky because right now they don't have their 3rd land drop, but we just cannot let that spell and stay in play or even touch the battlefield. So get rid of this. Get rid of the spell, and for now, it was nice that we had 2 of our main hand disruption spells immediately in a matchup where that is meaningful. Okay, I don't like having to play the Urza Saga here, but we are going to play it and pass because there's no point of if we play Liliana, I feel like we start losing the card advantage battle in this spot. We'll see what their decision making process is. Say at this point, I'm all right with them drawing. Which I don't know why they played the island out in that spot. Okay, not sure why they wouldn't play their lord here. I mean, I'm just going to take it. Guess because they know that I definitely have some sort of instant speed interaction. Okay. Yeah, we are going to kill the lord. Drawing our second Urborg here is tough. Okay. Okay, that's a pretty good draw. I do think we're actually just playing out. Ooh, no, let's play out the Liliana. I think that gives us better control over the board on future turns. I was gonna play the Murderous Rider out, but I think that's gonna. Okay. Oh, subtlety. That's horrible. Okay. I can't express how horrible the play I think that is. That because it's you don't even get the subtlety. We're just gonna bottom it. We don't need it anymore. We have Plague Engineers and Board Wipes and Murderous Riders. Liliana being a 2-for-1 there is way better than we could have ever asked for. Because at that point, we probably were just expecting to start having to discard all the goodies in our hand and trying to ride on the back of a Liliana. But now I think we're good. I don't think we care about. Let's just do this for now. I don't think we care about making a token for right now. We are just going to get an expedition map, and in a few turns we will. So Murderous Rider will name Merfolk. Our board wipe will be kind of a last, just a situation where we're in dire straits and get us out. I don't think we'll even need it in this game, but we could. I would be willing, I think, at this point, if they attack, to trade, and they're not willing to do that. If they have a hex catcher or anything like that, just because I have the board wipe. Just deplete some of their options. Yeah, we're just gonna go get an Urza Saga. They're not gonna be able to play the waiting game too long against us, I don't think. So they do have a Harbinger of the Tides they could play. We'll go ahead and... Oh, no, never mind. They did exile that out of their hand, correct? They did. So it's probably a second Merfolk Trickster. It could be a Hex Catcher. It's just a second Trickster. That's fine. Both of their creatures are still just 1/1s, though. So they do have one turn to potentially attack with some 2/2s if they can get a Lord in play. A Svelin here would be very, very tricky. Of course, it's a Svelin that currently has Indestructible. Of course, such a silly Magic card. It's definitely like, I know that Merfolk maybe needed a little bit of help, but I don't think that helps Merfolk against the decks that Merfolk needed help against. Okay, that's not the worst. Hmm. It's a little bit of tanking here as to what the best thing is. So the most annoying thing is the contrast here of playing Bontu's Last Reckoning and having your Plague Engineer die and not getting value out of your Urza Saga. Okay, I think I know what the best line of action here is. I think it's going to be hold this up, hope that they attack, March of Wretched Sorrow, one of the Tricksters, and trade with Svelin. The nightmare scenario would be they go second land and either have a Harbinger or a... Okay. Well, if they just have another creature, yeah, that's not good. I think that is fine though. So they do get to draw the card here, but I should be able to get a 2-for-1 out of this exchange to make up for that. So let's go 1, 2, 3. Okay, and we can do 3. That's just ward 1. So we just want to cast it. So ward 1 triggers. Opponent is in the tank. We will pay for the ward 1, of course. Let's say Spell Piercing would be very bad for us. We'll go to blocks. We'll get our free Merfolk Murder. And this is tricky because now we'll see what we draw. Yeah, I think we're just conceding that we can't really beat this felon on this board state. Then the question becomes now, do we want to deal 2 damage to them or do we want to have an untapped land? I think we want to just have the untapped land. Would also be fine with them countering that spell. And we won't put Obosh in hand or play Murderous Rider. We can do both those next turn. Or do something better potentially. That was a very tricky situation there to navigate because the Plague Engineer, they were, I think, maybe over respecting the Plague Engineer some compared to their Svelin. So Tide Shaper, that's fine. Well, let's not F6. Okay, that's even better because I can just play this Urborg and kill that Urborg. Perfect. Okay. Play that. Play this Urborg. Keep the new Urborg. Shrink that fella. And we'll just play pretty good blocker this turn. That gets rid of our island, so it shrinks the Tide Shaper. That is probably like I think I would have just done a basic swamp there, because Peatland, Takenuma, and Urborg all could leave the battlefield potentially. Oh, that's perfect. We'll definitely take their hand being empty for the rack over and getting 4 damage dealt to them, or however many damage I didn't see. They could have, because of the Urborg, maybe they didn't take all 4, but I think they did. So attack for 2. It's fine. Plague Engineer would be nice here. It's always nice against a tribal deck. So that's might be a silly thing to say. I think here we just Swift End and then play the Murderous Rider. If they counter it, then I just put Obosh in hand. Play the Murderous Rider. Make sure we're not taking any unnecessary damage off this Peatland. It can add up. Gives us a little bit of life. Once again, March of Wretched Sorrow looking pretty good last game. Just gives you so much flexibility. Okay, so the opponent didn't have anything. My guess is maybe there's an Aether Vial in hand. I would be shocked if they have a Dismember. I understand leaving in or having Dismember in against us. I'm not criticizing that just because of how the game's gone. Like, it makes sense to me. Because they knew about the Plague Engineers. Perfect. That should about wrap it up unless they have a way to handle that pretty easily between everything we have going on now. There's no point. We'll tap the Saga, but there's really no point. Doesn't matter. They are definitely in trouble. Just go ahead and gain some life instead of being overly defensive because of this Fatal Push. Whittle their life total down a little bit. We have the Rack attacking them in one direction. We have a creature putting pressure. It's an underrated combination, actually, is the Rack plus a creature, because the creature encourages them to play their hand onto the board, and the Rack, of course, makes you not want to play your hand onto the board. Okay, just a Lord of Atlantis. We got a Fatal Push for you. We'll let them skip to their end step. Fatal Push. Perfectly fine with getting that, baiting out a Force of Negation or something, or even a Spell Pierce, really. Just anything to lower their hand count. Okay. I think we're gonna play it safe. We're not just gonna slam the Obosh here. We're gonna get full value out of the Saga, especially now that we have the Fatal Push. There's no rush that we're worried about them outpacing us on the board or something out of nowhere. Like, we have good interaction with them as well. If that was a land, I might have considered playing the Obosh, just to try to force their hand quicker because they're more choked on mana than they are cards at this point. With at least the appearance of. They might be equally choked on either. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see a dress down from them, but that's just something that can happen. I do think I get the Hex Parasite here for a couple reasons. One, it puts pressure on them, and that's the big one, but also helps with the Aether Vial. Um, so we do have Revolt already triggered with Fatal Push, by the way, and it does help with. So Aether Vial, if they do have a Chalice for whatever reason, I'm guessing this is a harbinger of the tides. Maybe they bounce the attacking construct. They're definitely the game's probably been decided for a while. The top deck Fatal Pushes have absolutely sealed it, though. They might have a blue board wipe, like one of the ones where attack or return creatures with X toughness back to hand or something, but don't think they do. And we win the match. Good beats, opponent. So we think we're 1-0 right now. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. That was quite a long game. Our opponent did take a little bit more time off the clock than we did. I don't think we played too horribly that round. What's the only thing that was like a glaring mistake for me was playing the Ravens Crime. This is tough. I think let's take the draw of this league or the play of this league. I mean, Obosh kind of gives you a reason and an ability to be on the play. Tough. I don't love this hand, but I'm already down a card by being on the play, and Ravens Crime can help us catch back up a little bit if we get flooded. So hopefully they take a mulligan. Opponent does take a mulligan. Let's get my laptop out here. Seem to be a little bit in the tank. Okay. It is our turn. It's just instinct for me to click through the first turn too, so definitely have to watch that one today. Will Raven's Crime, see if we can get any knowledge just by Raven's Crime. That does help our decision making with what we do going forward just by playing that Raven's Crime. Basic Forest actually puts them on Amulet Titan more than anything for me. We'll see. Flooded Strand. Basic Forest and Flooded Strand is not the combination I was expecting to see today. Let's just start working on their hand, I guess. I don't know if Urborg fixes their mana or not, and we don't really need our mana fixed. Okay, Leyline Binding, that's fine. Yeah, we don't want to give them fixed mana or an opportunity to. Um, yeah, I think this is correct. I won't go. So Leyline Binding, got it. Guessing they have a couple of lands. Pithing Needle on Flooded Strand there doesn't really do anything. They just immediately crack it. We'll probably be saving that Pithing Needle in case they crank out a Wrenn and 6. Misty Rainforest, okay. Them not getting some sort of mountain here makes me think they're probably not creativity. Okay, they're just domain. All right, not nearly as worried about that. Fatal Push is pretty horrible against domain, though. We will have to take an ouch. We'll name Dragon. Uh, just slow down their clock just a little bit. Pretty much most of the rest of their deck does kind of die to Fatal Push. That's fine. They're going to play their lands out. Okay, opponents seems to be in the tank a little bit, or just they just tap their mana wrong. I don't know if they're today. Oh, we're probably is a Crashing Footfalls deck. Yep, that's what we are. Okay, good to know that. Would have definitely named Rhinos had I realized that. I guess we just Raven's Crime, get the last card away. A dead gone. That's fine. Get rid of a token. I don't think that playing the Pithing Needle is even worth 1 damage. We will trade the Plague Engineer for a Rhino token at this point. Okay, well, maybe now I have to do a little bit of math and make sure that we do actually want to do that. Like, I think we have to, which is really unfortunate. After sideboarding, being able to get rid of some of the Fatal Push, which Fatal Push isn't horrible against them, but it is horrible against Scion of Draco and not great against Shardless Agent. Opponent's taking a minute to assign their damage for some reason. Maybe they just don't know that they have to do that. Okay. Anything good? We've not played anything that like guarantees us to be on the rack, and Plague Engineer kind of throws the scent off the rack a little bit, while Pithing Needle might reveal that we have Urza Saga in our deck. So, well, one, we're dead on board, and our opponent's got to stop at our upkeep here instead of just letting us see what card we draw. Because unless it's a removal spell, we just concede on the spot. Opponent still holding priority. Okay. Well, we do have a Bloodchief's Thirst, but once again, very bad card in this particular matchup. If we knew we were drawing that, maybe we don't trade with the Rhino, but we still probably have to. There's not a lot of things that are getting us out of that situation. So Funeral Charm, bad. Bloodchief's Thirst, very mediocre. Nihil Spellbomb, pretty bad. Pithing Needle, I think Pithing Needle is bad. I could be proven wrong, I guess. We definitely want more Plague Engineers, more Bontus. I don't think we want to even mess with Murderous Rider, even as the one of there. We'll just bring in a couple of the marches. What's our worst? I'm not sure if I think Fatal Push is a little bit worse than Bloodchief's Thirst in the matchup, excluding the situation where they go the instant speed cascade into it. Let's see. Is anything here? No Void Mirror because of Obosh is a little bit annoying. Void Mirror is nice in this matchup. Let's go down just a well. Maybe we go down a land even. I'm not sure. Any land that we don't really want. So they're not going to be running. They're not going to be running any sort of Blood Moon, so we don't have to worry about keeping swamps. Actually, I do think we're okay either going down a land or a Raven's Crime. And between the two, I think I'm alright with going down a land. Let's go down swamp. 23 will be fine. Normally, that's not the practice. Okay, in this game, we definitely do want to play. We have a better understanding of what hands we want to keep, too. Oh, that would be great if we had any lands at all. That hand's better. I think. Oh, never mind. It's not. So I can cancel here. Oh, it won't let you cancel after you decide to keep a hand. That's silly. We'll send. I thought for whatever reason that we had 2 lands in this hand, which like it's amazing that you go down to 23 lands, right? And then all of a sudden you get back to back 1-land hands. Coincidence? I don't know. Oh wow, horrible. Well, next game we will be taking out Inquisitions. I thought maybe Inquisitions would hit a little bit more of their deck, but it appears not. Like at least you'd be able to take Shardless Agents, things like that. But I didn't think that one through as much as I could have. The rack is fine here. They'll probably tap down our Urza Saga, but they don't know that we don't have a land anyway for it. So no reason to cast a second Inquisition for basically nothing when we can just pitch it to a March later. Looks like we're going to lose this one pretty handedly just because we're not prepared at all for this matchup. This aggressive of a Rhino's deck wasn't really around the last time I was playing Magic. You had Domain Zoo and the less aggressive Rhino's deck without the Scions, which I don't know if this is like a meta deck or not. Like I said, it's been a minute. Okay, Scion. So that just makes that just 2 damage. So we got to untap. Very surprised that they don't play a Fire Ice here and just tap down my Saga. Okay. I do think we do this now. And I do think we also get rid of the Fatal Push, even though that's which I guess we have to be able to kill it, but instead of the Bontu's Last Reckoning, for a few reasons, but mostly because I don't think we have to worry about them putting a lot of pressure on board immediately. and both those cards are dead without like pretty bad situations for those cards to be for not be dead. Inquisition would require, I guess it would just be straight dead unless they had um, multiple of the ways to produce rhinos, and they had 0 in their opening hand. So do play their land. Pithing Needle on Wooded Foothills at one point would have been nice, given they had 3 of them, which I guess that's a little bit relevant. Get rid of all 3. Oh, they did hit exactly the one card I preferred them to not hit. They do have Orvars in the deck. That's also interesting. Well, once again, not a great spot to be in. I do think we're getting pretty well pub stopped. I guess we get a Castle Lochtwain here. It doesn't really matter. We don't want another Saga, so we want to be able to hit 3 lands. Pretty much now if we can. Yeah, as soon as I realized that I did not have them on the Footfalls version of the deck, I knew this was going to be a rough matchup, just because we're not prepared for it. Them having a Fire Ice this turn would be much less backbreaking than them doing it next turn. So hopefully this is the Fire Ice turn, and then if they do have Rhinos, they'll do that next turn. Okay, so yes, this is the Fire Ice turn, so that's fine. Because the likelihood that we draw a land is pretty low anyway. Well, not low, but only like 1/3. Okay, so play a rack. That doesn't do anything. If they're going to counter that, that's fine. Leyline Binding on my other rack. Okay. I think that they just wanted to play a card there. There was really no need for them to do that, given they have 6 cards in hand. Which I also get it. I've played a little bit of Rhinos before. It's a deck that you kind of just want to turn your brain off. You don't want to necessarily put in a lot of thought while playing it. And I don't mean that as a slight to my opponent. It's just, it's not a difficult deck to pilot. It's very fun. And it's very, very, very powerful. So we do lose that game. We got stomped pretty good by our Rhino players. Luckily, if you're playing this deck at F&M, the likelihood that someone has dropped the $1,600 to bring a Rhinos deck to their F&M is pretty low. So I don't think that you have to worry about playing that in paper as much as other decks. There might be 1 or 2 in your multiple hour radius of driving to game stores that'll play the deck that maybe plays tournaments a little bit more or doesn't want to play a super interactive deck. They want to play an aggro deck. Okay. Rough hand. This is once again the classic Castle Lochtwain no swamp hand that I tend to get a lot. It's like to the point that Castle Lochtwain is like it feels like a detriment more than it's a positive, which is sad because it's maybe the single most powerful card besides Urza Saga in the entire land slot. Look at that. Here I am whining, and all our problems are just magically fixed instantly. So we definitely want to get the Ren at 6, even though we could Pithing Needle it. It just generates too much immediate value. Unfortunately, we are already under 18 when we would have had to have done it anyway. But fortunately, we are on a very aggressive Urza Saga draw, so maybe that'll work out. It will play the one of the Farseeks here, I'm sure. They did fetch for Cinderglade, and if you didn't know, but just sorry, I probably should have explained. Lastly, Farseek, I know it's a Valakut deck, but it's been so long since Farseek has been a popular card in a Valakut deck that maybe you didn't know that just by that. But they are definitely we definitely have them on Valakut without question. I think we play double rack here and make them rethink some of their life choices. Maybe they'll be a little bit more hesitant to play out a Farseek. Good aggressive rack hand. Specifically Urza Saga hand. The rack doesn't really do anything here. Unless they just play into it like crazy, which I mean, they might just know that they can get to that Valakut value quickly, but they do play the Farseek. They might not have had a land drop. So yeah, both fet. So everything that we do about's gone. So they might not have had a land drop for turn. Let's see. They're thinking about something hard. Maybe it's a suspended search for tomorrow. It sure is. I actually think that we're okay spending one turn getting this Liliana into play. This Liliana can represent more damage than one Saga token. Let's pitch. That's tough. We'll pitch the Spellbomb. Even though it makes our Saga tokens bigger, our Saga tokens are already big enough to win the game. So they did hold on to the Scalding Tarn. Right? Like they didn't. We knew about the Scalding. We didn't know about the Scalding Tarn. It's the second. We did know about the first one, not the second one. And they could have played it as their land drop. So they're playing Explore. They're not dead on board, but they're essentially dead on board. I think that the correct play for them was to make their land drop there and hope that they get to 7 and can top deck a Valakut. Okay, that's a little bit more interesting because if they now that puts me in a spot where well, no, it doesn't. I was gonna say that I have to worry about something very specific, but I don't have to worry about that because I have Liliana to uptick. I was gonna say you have to the creativity itself. What is uptick? So 3, 6, 9, 12. God, I hate to do this because I hate to show them they have Funeral Charm, but I actually the most guaranteed way to not die is to do that. Ooh, actually, let's make them discard. Whatever they draw, because they won't draw a instant speed spell that, like a Veil of Summer or something that can punish us, and then that way we know that there's no shenanigans that can get them out of it. If we, I was going to use the Funeral Charm to make them or to kill the dwarf token, but instead we'll just make them discard at instant speed. Boom. Okay. I wonder what. That's probably something that they didn't want us to see, but obviously they didn't have to show us. Okay, so Bloodchief's Thirst, those are tough. We do want Plague Engineers for Dwarf. We don't want Murderous Rider because that takes us below 20. Something interesting to note: this is probably a Indomitable Creativity deck that gets Primeval Titans. So the Plague Engineers for the Dwarfs are good. The Fatal Pushes and Funeral Charms are pretty good. The tough question is, so you don't want to get under. What I'm getting at too is you don't want to get under 20 life, just in case they also are playing Scape Shift because Scape Shift has a magic number of 18. If you can get to 7 lands, you only have to like that does 18 damage. That's one Valakut, 6 lands. Then after that, anything if you're over 18 life, they have to have 8 lands. So you don't really want to deal damage to yourself, but in some cases you do have to. Let's see. Liliana is probably one of the weaker spells. That's what I'm really tempted on the marches. I'm not sure. I guess we can take out the graveyard hate. So that's easy. So we'll take out one graveyard hate piece, and now we have to decide if we want extra marches or Lilianas. I do think we want the extra marches. Um, it just gives us more instant speed removal to replace the Murderous Riders we took out. We're going to be in top deck mode against them pretty quickly, so Liliana's not great. Okay, this is a pretty good hand. Very annoying that. So I know I'm moving from thought to thought very quickly. So Liliana is not particularly great against like matchups where you get into top deck mode automatically pretty quickly, but she is great in matchups where you do need to get to that late game quickly, and she can help finish. Okay, so search for tomorrow. We know there's no Veil of Summer. One of the things I was going to say is we don't like going under 18 here, but I think that Scape Shift, if it is in their deck, it's not their number one plan. So I think we're okay to go under 20. Like, it's not the end of the world here. Okay. Oh, this is tough because you don't want them to have the opportunity to draw a Veil of Summer, but I think we take the high upside play, take them off their ramp for turn. This all in with the Farseeks and everything makes me think that there's a chance that okay, perfect Dwarven Mind. We'll go ahead and play our rack. But this makes me think there's a chance that they are playing the Scape Shift because this is pretty all in on the Valakut side with Farseeks and like ramping into the specifically ramping into the Primeval Titan instead of Indomitable creativitying it. It's hard to turn that into a verb. All right, we're just going to F6. They know we don't have any. There's not a card in black that can interact there. Okay, we will play our Plague Engineer, naming Dwarf. That turns off their ability to creativity easily. Unless they have a way to kill our Plague Engineer. They might just bolt the Plague Engineer, play the Dwarven Mine, go. I'm sure they're getting a tap. If they're fetching, I don't think they must not have bolts, yeah. And they're just getting a tapped land at this point. Bloodchief's Thirst does clean up Planeswalkers or Dryads. I doubt they're running Dryad because it appears that every card in their deck is a mountain in some way. So probably no Dryad. There's no point in running Dryad if you're just Gruul. I guess you could, but I don't see any strong case really. Opponents taking their time. I don't think there's a lot for them to think about. Maybe they're deciding whether or not to play their Valakut or their Dwarven Mine. Because the dwarf just immediately dies, or maybe they're bolting the Plague Engineer. So Wish, okay. So they are, if they're a Wish deck, that does make me think that they might be a Scape Shift deck. They do just go ahead and get rid of the Plague Engineer, so now they're probably playing, yep, playing the Dwarven Mine. Unfortunately, I do think we have to kill the dwarf. Um, Silly to waste a removal spell on it, but they get in the spot where they can just top deck their creativity. Obosh looks good here. We'll be able to curve into it on turn 5, and that puts a very quick clock on them as well. What do you got, opponent? We do know that there's a Valakut in hand. I think that's and an Arid Mesa. So we know 2 of their 3 cards actually. So Valakut, Arid Mesa. They don't have a lot of gas here. Okay, so there's the Arid Mesa. I guess that they're hiding the Valakut from removal on our end. We'll play the Obosh just to get in 1 extra damage and maybe eat some Valakut triggers next turn. I think that's fine. I don't think that there's any world where we just sit there and let them bolt our face instead. Notably, this is our first example of doubling up a rack trigger. We dealt 2 instead of 1, so Obosh take 1. Takenuma also gets much better, by the way, when you're playing Obosh in your deck, just because it gives you another target to hit, and it does reduce the cost of Takenuma. So the only cost reducer is Liliana in the main. Okay, so now they are going for the first bolt. Probably. They might just have creativity and kill us here. So yeah, they're just bolting us. So now there's two cards in hand we don't know about that have both been drawn pretty freshly. It's probably creativity and we're probably dead. Or it's just Primeval Titan. I believe they can get Valakut Mountain. It's probably the thing they want to get here. And if we don't have a way to then kill the Titan next turn, I think we're dead. We might be dead here. I don't think we are. I think that's just. I don't think there's a way that they can deal more than 6 to us on this turn. So they do get Valakut Mountain, and that would be 6 damage. I guess the one positive of running the Dryad. Okay, they do decide to kill the Obosh for some reason. I guess because like if I'm dead no matter what if I don't draw a removal spell for the Titan. That's probably the correct play. Um, Chump Blocker doesn't do anything. Fatal Push does do something if we find a removal spell. We don't. So just yeah, like we're dead on board. There's no way to get out of it because they have because that has trample specifically. All right, interesting. We know a little bit more about their deck now. They do know about the Plague Engineers, so they will probably be bringing in some sort of Bolt or Flame Slash. They might just have the one copy for their Wish. I'm not sure. The question now becomes, do we want the Thoughtseizes or not? I think the answer is still yes, we do. Um, just being able to disrupt their early turns. We will be on the play once again, by the way, because we are, they oh god, 7 land hand. We're going to mulligan that. It was a pretty good 7. I will give you that. Because we have the Bloodchief's Thirst, I think we can pitch back the Pithing Needle for now. This is not a very good 6, but it's probably better than a 5. Opponent does mulligan to 5, so we have a good chance here. Maybe are they? I don't know if they're mulliganing to Veil just a keepable hand like we were. It's hard to say. Get rid of a Farseek. That's probably a good sign. But exiles a search for tomorrow. There's 3 unknowns. Oh, this is trickier. So next turn we'll want to play the Plague Engineer. Okay, we're on the plan of Plague Engineer, so we're not necessarily holding up Funeral Charm. Let's get them to discard now with this. And I guess just this is tough. This is awkward. This is one of those where had this been a 7-card hand, we would have been able to play more mana efficiently because we would have been more likely to pitch a land card to a Raven's Crime here, or play a 1-mana spell of some sort because that's the majority of our deck is 1-mana spells or lands. Okay, Rin 6. We did make the correct call to keep the Bloodchief's Thirst. Unfortunately, okay, I do like not having to play the Saga here again. Kill the Ren. So I want to get full value with my Saga this game specifically. So 2 cards at hand. We do know one's the Bloodstained Mire. So next turn, any sort of 1-mana interaction spell I'm okay with. Thoughtseize, weirdly, is probably the best one. I don't think that they're a Scape Shift deck at all, unless Wish can get Scape Shift. Okay. I don't love drawing the Bloodchief's Thirst here. This does turn off creativity for the short term. Interestingly enough, we may consider playing some Orvars on our sideboard in the future for these creativity matchups. That not the Primeval Titan ones, but the Archon one, just because it's a good way to get some value. I think that I might have mentioned. I think it was this league that someone was playing one against us, just because it's just a card to discard for value. Force of Vigor on that. Okay, we'll take that. We'll take a 1-for-1 on that, definitely. It's not great for us, but it's not. We definitely could have got blown out a lot harder. Do I take a turn? I don't think I take a turn off to play the Obosh here. I think we just play the Rack. Or to bring the Obosh in hand. If we still had all 4 lands, I would have been more likely to play that. But then, of course, I would be making a Saga token and not doing what I just did there. We do have their creativity shut off for now. We're not dead to Escape Shift for now. We have an answer to Primeval Titan if we hit a 4th land. This is pretty good. We'll get in here for 3. I wish that March could be a fireball. It would probably be too good if you could just it would be the finisher of a combo deck where you just draw a bunch of cards. I'm sure if you could just fireball someone's face with it. So I get why it's not, but that doesn't mean that the selfish part of me is not like, yeah, wouldn't that be great if you could just deal the last 6 to their face. We'll attack first, see if we can bait out some sort of bolt. I do think we Thoughtseize here. There's a lot of worlds where that Thoughtseize is bad. Okay, just to Besage you. They'll probably Besage you our Rack. I'm guessing. Which I'm actually pretty okay with that too. It doesn't change the clock too much. It's still, because they were holding cards, it's still a 2-turn clock. And that gives us an extra land for the Bloodchief's Thirst if we need it. If we just snap off land here, yeah, that should be lethal. Alright, let's see if they got it. If they have a bolt. If not, we just got them. Oh, they're playing slow. Do we get there? We got there. Look at that. Fantastic. Good game, opponent. That was a fun one. So 2-1 or 3-1 or 2-2. I'm not sure. This was very, very weird how this has worked here. It says lost, but then it says we've won. But we'll see. It says we're just 2-1. Not too bad of games so far today. Apologize if I'm not as articulate with this as I have been in other videos. Just when you're out of practice for a while, talking for this long and into a void, really, you do kind of lose your touch a little bit. I don't think I've played poorly though, so hopefully that's the part you care most about. All right, we will be selecting our Obosh. This is a good hand. If this hand doesn't, if you're not keeping this hand, you're not playing Rack, or at least this version of Rack. We do have a little bit more 3-drops than I would like, but that also gives us some fodder for March to maybe deal a little bit of extra damage if we're not in a grindy matchup. We like the mulligan to 6 with a Thoughtseize. Opponent appears to be debating on whether or not they want to mulligan. Okay, they were just debating on which card to send back. Windswept Heath? Basic Forest. Arbor Elf? Well, this is tricky now. Because, okay, I do think we just Fatal Push this Arbor Elf. One could make the argument to Thoughtseize here. But 4 cards in hand, the likelihood that they have multiple payoffs is pretty high. I'd rather just choke them on the mana if possible. Next turn, we'll see. that a Wrenn 6? Yes, it is. Okay. Nihil Spellbomb's okay. Before we do anything, I'm going to Thoughtseize. I would have rather just tossed that Thoughtseize. They do have Boseiju right now. Let's see. We can kill Wrenn 6 by exiling both cards in our hand. How important is that? I actually think let's Nihil Spellbomb with the intention of cracking it in response to their Wrenn, and then next turn we don't have to. Like, I'd rather not have the Nihil Spellbomb than I would rather lose Murderous Rider or Liliana at the Veil here. So, okay, that's fine. Don't really care about Bolt. We're just going to crack this. We don't get to draw a card off of it, obviously. But next turn we can just Murderous Rider the Wrenn and save our mana. If this is a cloth, oh, it's just a Bone Crusher Giant. That's not bad. Especially with the Do we know about any extra land cards? We do. We know about Boseiju, so that means we do have to kill this Wrenn 6. So we are going to take a chunk of damage next turn, but it shouldn't make too much of a difference in the outcome of the game. They will be Boseijuing our Urza Saga, I'm sure. I'd be shocked if they didn't. And just do it on their turn. They're probably making sure they get in for 4 first before they give me a Revolted Fatal Push. I guess, does it come into play tapped? Does not come into play tapped, so they are making sure they get their 4 damage before giving me Revolt Fatal Push, which is smart. They are taking a second, though. Maybe they're considering what's the worst that could happen if they let me untap with Urza Saga. With my sequence of plays, it's not clear that I'm on the rack. And oh wow, okay. Are we really not gonna Boseiju here, huh? Not going to Boseiju. Kind of shocked about that one. Unless they're going to wait to do it on my turn, that's even sillier. Like, that's rather. That's just dumb. I'm not trying to be mean when I say that, but that makes no sense. Now my Fatal Push is revolted. I have an extra mana, and I'm going to use that to kill this. I have a way to gain a bunch of life back, potentially. Yeah, that was... Okay, don't skip through my turn. I think I'm just... It's tempting to uptick. It doesn't appear that they have a lot that they could do with 4 mana that they can't do with 3. And there's no... I guess the Wooded Foothills in hand. Like they have... Okay, the Bolt was the last thing. Sorry. There was the Bolt. The Wooded Foothills is gone. So, yeah, like the Bolt deals more damage than the Arbor Elf does, this turn at least. Say the only downside of getting rid of the March instead of the Rack here is is if they play a second creature. I think I would rather be able to kill both of them than like if they play a Bone Crusher Giant here. Opponent's taking quite a second. Maybe it's a Blood Moon. I don't know. They're making sure that they don't need to do anything before playing this Blood Moon. They definitely appear to be a Blood Moon deck. I do apologize for content-wise. Our opponent has played. All of our opponents this league have played rather slow. Okay, just a pillage. That's fine. I mean, We don't love that, obviously, but we're just going to down tick on the Arbor Elf and play our Rack, and that puts us ahead on board pretty sternly. Well, that would be better if they didn't already have all three of their Arbor Elves gone. Play a Rack. We're in a winning board state. That can change in a hurry against this sort of deck. Pillaging my swamp instead of my Urborg does tell me that they almost definitely are playing main deck Blood Moon, and they are. Look at that, as if. Okay, we'll turn off our auto yields. So I think we named Giant here. That's the only, like, they have one elf left in their deck. That's the only card that we know that's a creature affected by Plague Engineer. I do hate that we're revealing the Plague Engineer, but yeah, it's just a Giant. There's no other. If there was a super type like Soldier or something, we'd probably go with that because it's probably more likely to have a Soldier than a Giant. Well, I was going to say, is it the last elf? No, it's the Utopia Sprawl. Would have felt a bit silly if it was the last elf. Play that. We'll just go ahead and uptick this for value. Cast our Murderous Rider. Get in there for 2. This should be, just kind of all she wrote at this point. But they have top decks potentially that win them the game, or at least keep them from losing. Okay. Maybe they don't there. Even Glorybringer doesn't really like it. That doesn't keep them from losing, but would have been a good top deck. I think we're pretty well set. I don't think funeral charms are particularly great. This is a spot that I might want to consider cutting Murderous Rider just because of the double red. And this is also a really neat hack with Obosh, by the way, if you didn't know this. Obosh is one of the funniest ways to kind of like win through a Blood Moon. Is just the fact that it has 2 red pips. I've always found that funny. Sorry, maybe it's less funny than I think, but I've definitely had it occur. Not playing Rack, but in other variations where had I not just been made 1 or 2 adjustments to play the Obosh, it would have not gone as well. I think we might want the second Pithing Needle. I think we do. I don't think Plague Engineer does anything amazing against them. Maybe we go down. I don't know. It's tough because the only reason why I'm considering going down the Lilianas is because of the double black pips for Plague Engineers. Just because they are a Blood Moon deck, we could just get got by that. I don't like playing things like Relic here to give Boseiju more targets. The only reason I'm bringing in the second Pithing Needle is for Boseiju specifically, for Boseiju and Renin 6 combo. I guess we run it back like that. We do want all 4 marches here. This is very specifically the type of matchup where March is good. You might only have 1 black mana and a bunch of cards stuck in hand, and they are an aggro deck at heart. So, okay, this is good enough. I don't love this hand because we do have this weird dichotomy of if they play the Arbor Elf here, now we have to go through the same decision-making process of do we Thoughtseize or do we Fatal Push? And of course, they do have the Arbor Elf. Okay, we have both Pithing Needles, so we just Fatal Push. So the downside of Thoughtseizing here over Fatal Pushing is that they slam the Renin 6. If they do that, next turn we can Boseiju, Renin 6, or Pithing Needle, Renin 6, and Boseiju, which would be interesting. They do not have that, so solid for us. Oh, I don't think there's a reason not to play a land yet. Let's just check them. Force of Vigor. I do think that's the easy take here. Take the Force of Vigor. Play a Urza Saga. We're going to play a Pithing Needle. If they don't crack Wooded Foothills, I'm naming Wooded Foothills. They do crack Wooded Foothills. Crack Wooded. I guess if you say that too fast, it gives you a lisp. Okay. Let's name Boseiju. It is Boseiju who endures. Yes, yes. We are going to get our Urza Saga pillage, so it actually might have been incorrect to play the Urza Saga there, because it's just mana efficient for them to play their Stomping Ground next turn. So that might have been a misplay. We'll see how that turns out, because that's really our only threat right now. So they're definitely going to pillage here. I think I just got too ahead of myself. Oh, wow, I disagree with that decision. I mean, like maybe they just have the Blood Moon here. Um, if they do, there's no point in. But maybe they're just thinking that they're going to keep me from getting the value of Urza Saga. But okay, so we will see the Bloodbraid Elf here. Let's see what Bloodbraid Elf spins into. I do really appreciate this. Reminds me of the old Ponza type decks that I would play a little bit. So I do have respect for. Do have me some respect for the way that they're playing this game. Also notably, Plague Engineer is a little bit better than we thought because of the elemental tokens. I think I'm okay with. Oh, God. Huh. Yeah, I do think we. I do think we do this. I don't like that that's what we're doing to get rid of the second march, but we're behind on the mana just a little bit. And this buys us some time. I do, like I said, I do dislike the decision to pillage the swamp here. What do I get? Do I get the Nihil Spellbomb? I think I do. Potentially. Or do I get the Expedition map? We don't want to get a rack. Rack doesn't do anything here, really. I think it's correct to get the Expedition map. And as much as it stinks, I think we're just getting basic swamp here. So if we get an Urborg and they Blood Moon, we just lose. Stinks, but that's just where we are. Okay, we do use the Fatal Push here on the Seasoned Pyromancer, I guess. This should hypothetically be like a not so easy matchup for us. They are playing more creatures than I thought, so we will be bringing in the Bontu's Last Reckoning. These might be some sideboarded creatures too. I'm not sure. I doubt it though. Okay, we do know about a Fury now as well. When did that get put in the ground? Oh, that was discarded. So they do. Okay. Plague Engineer and land would be a nice couple draws. Okay, there's the Blood Moon. Well, we played around that correctly. Do you think we just put Obosh in the hand this turn? I think there's not any card that we're worried about. Or we're not worried about these elemental tokens, I mean. Plague Engineer would be a good draw next turn. Black Mana would be a good draw next turn. Plague Engineer would be great with Seasoned Pyromancer in the graveyard now specifically, especially if that becomes clear that that's their plan is to just pass and play that. Okay, that's fine. Let's see if they respond to this. If they're paying attention, they'll activate their Seasoned Pyro now, and they do. Okay. We are just going to name Renin 6 here. Not very exciting. So if they hadn't have activated the Seasoned Pyromancer, we would have named the Seasoned Pyromancer with the Pithing Needle, as that's an activated ability. But we have a turn that we're going to let them kind of do their thing. We might kill one elemental here. Actually, I like that idea. I think we're going to kill exactly one elemental with this march. So we're not going to exile anything. But that makes it so that our Obosh might be a little bit more threatening. Because the less chump blockers they have, the better. And if we are gonna remove those, it's like you remove them now, you don't remove them however many turns from now. Okay, Inquisition, take a look at their hand. So Renin 6 Blood Moon, that's great. I'm not sure why they wouldn't just go ahead and cycle the Tranquil Thicket though. Let's take the Renin 6 because we don't actually have a way to get rid of the Blood Moon anyway. So a second Blood Moon doesn't matter. And if they top deck like a Force of Vigor, then, you know. I think I don't get why you don't cycle that Tranquil Thicket on your turn, but maybe they're thinking something that I'm not, or putting me on something that I'm not on. Plague Engineer, Plague Engineer. I run this card for this exact situation. Pillage, okay. Well, that does suck. And there's the big payoff here. Pillage is interesting. I think Pillage is kind of horrible. I mean, it's the best land destruction spell. I've not really seen many decks run Pillage specifically. I think if you're running Blood Moon, like it's not well, I like Pillage. I've played a lot of Pillage. It's not a bad Magic card. I don't want to hate on it, but it's just I think that like Brotherhood's End, things like that are a little bit better for artifact hate. And we are dead here. But it has gotten us this game. GG's from our opponent. I did play quite a lot of different Blood Moon type cruel variations. Once again, like for a good while, my favorite was running actually an Obosh list. Okay, we do want all 4 Plague Engineers now. March looked worse that game than I thought it would. Go up 2 Bontus instead. Not particularly impressed. They do have the, I guess Raven's Crimes aren't great comparatively because it's such a slow game. Because they're trying to lock us out and we're trying to lock them out. So it's a pretty slow game. So I think that Raven's Crime is not as good as a slow game. It's a fast-paced card. I like this hand. I'm glad we chose to be on the play with this hand specifically. Gives us all sorts of good information. Opponent mulligans to 6, which is also great. And this is the first time in this best of 3 that we've gotten to be on the play against their Mana Dork deck, and that makes such a huge difference. We don't have to make that turn 1 decision we've had to make the past 2 games of Fatal Push or Hand Disruption spell. Yeah, back on Pillage. I don't want to rant about it too much, but I think that there's the land destruction side of those sorts of rule decks is a little bit overrated. I think it's the aggro side that's better. Aggro plus Blood Moon. Lightning Bolt, Seasoned Pyromancer. So that's an easy take on Seasoned Pyromancer for me. I think maybe they just don't have cards to bring in, but I don't think Lightning Bolt against the Rack deck that. I'm not sure if they've seen any creatures. Well, I would have taken that. Like for sure would have taken that, but here we are. We can Pithing Needle their Windswept Teeth. Let me make sure that there's not. I would rather do Wooded Foothills if there's a Wooded Foothills also in their hand. There's not. We're going to Pithing Needle their Windswept Heath and hope that that locks them out for a while. That's pretty aggressive given the circumstances, I know, because I could just top deck a Wrenn and 6, but Wrenn and 6 also doesn't do anything on this board. Okay, they do just have the second land. Ooh, this one's tough. That Plague Engineer is so good on certain car or certain things that they have, but because of the bolt, I think we just discard him too. Because they have double bolt. They'll discard the Windswept Heath, but yeah. I think that's correct. See if they bolt the Liliana. If their plan's double bolt on Liliana, and I have the ability to get Rack next turn, I'm cool with that. I'll probably be getting Expedition Map. Instead of bolting these construct tokens, I would be bolting the construct tokens. Hopefully we did choke them on mana. Okay, so they do bolt the Liliana. No follow-up play. Come on, no follow-up play. Yeah. Maybe it's a Bloodbraid Elf. Who knows? What I do know is I think we're in an okay spot. Where Liliana eating 1, 2, 3 magic cards is pretty good. No Blood Moon is also pretty good. We get some value. Just we're going to get a little more value. We're going to get an Expedition Map. Not going to get a Rack. We're going to be the Urza Saga aggro deck. Boom. Hit you for 4. Slap you pretty good. One good time. Boom. I think I would have been saving those bolts for the construct tokens, but it makes sense. Like maybe they have a Brotherhood's End or something like that I mentioned. I think that's a card that I would be thinking about running if I was this sort of deck. I think that card's very good. All right, opponent. They're in the tank here. They only have 3 cards in hand. Maybe they're considering pitching a Fury. Oh, that's what they're considering. Look at that. What did they exile? Seasoned Pyromancer? That's pretty good for us. We're not really the beat down in a normal situation in this matchup. Do they have the 3rd bolt or something? This play makes most sense if they have a 3rd bolt. Well, let's just force their hand and see if they do. I kind of don't want to Thoughtseize. I think I have to. Because like there's too many cards that could be stuck in their hand that just change the whole dynamic of the game, and there was one that would have. I should have done that before combat maybe, but I was thinking maybe it was a lightning bolt, and if I played this Nihil Spellbomb, they would just get me in response. So hopefully they don't kill us at 1 life or something like that. Okay. Well, now I feel like we're definitely in the clear. Okay. Get in there. Gonna get us an Urza Saga. Okay, I do like our spot here. Obviously, a Blood Moon isn't great, but I think we still are ahead even if they play a Blood Moon here. Verdict Catacombs. Just go ahead and cracking it. I'm not sure about cracking it there. And oh, is there a Seasoned Pyromancer in the graveyard I don't know about? Oh, I guess there was. That's fine. Okay, we'll go to combat. Just seeing what they do. We can't. It's not like we can eliminate both blockers here or something. I don't think there's any reason to fatal push that token yet, or create a token of our own. What do we have, opponent? They can't really attack unless they have something good. So they do have a bolt. Okay. That's fine. I do think that encourages me now to just go ahead and fatal push this, and that's game. Because I can just get a rack on my turn. They'll probably just scoop to that. Or I guess they don't see that they're dead, but they are. They're very dead. More than a little dead. They know about the rack, though. That's what killed them the first game. So I don't know what they're waiting on. I guess they're just going to go out in style here. That's perfectly fine. Not many days that you get to see a kill you rack on the stack. GG opponent. Boom. Well, so it turns out that I guess looking at this, that it did count that one game as a loss, which is something I'm probably going to message them about because I was I thought I was 100% sure. Now I'm about 90% sure that I did win that game a while back. Maybe something happened with my internet connection, and that's why it says 102. Maybe I just lost, and it's been so long that I forgot. Either way, thank y'all for watching. I'm going to do a different content video next. 3-1 in gameplay with this for today. I think that, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's a 4-1. I'm definitely not going to raise too much of a stink about it, but 3-1 from what you all saw. And at worst 3-2, at best 4-1. That's a pretty good league. We'll take that either way. And thank you all, and I hope you all have a great day and keep racking.